Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And we've got a very wonderful, fantastic episode for you today. Thank you guys for sticking around for our last couple of episodes on the View Askew universe, Blowfly, Ed, and Eddie. Today we're going to go back into the gaming world. We're going to be talking about basically the downfall of the gaming industry, or really the corruption of the gaming industry. If you will. Today we will be talking about loot box and microtransactions in video games. This is, of course, going to touch upon DLC, expansion packs, and the history of paid content in video games, which is not cool. We're going to talk about loot boxes and why they're bad, including lawsuits and bans and all these other crazy things. And basically what's wrong with the gaming industry right now is what we will be talking about. Video gaming specifically, casino as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what's wrong with the casino gaming industry, then you probably have a gambling addiction.
I think this is the first one in a while that this is like one that we both agree is terrible.
Oh yeah.
Like this is like we haven't like had a one that like we both agree is like a bad thing in a while. So this is, it's been a long time.
Yeah. I think today's going to be a really good one.
Yeah.
But that's not for me to decide. That's for our wonderful listeners in digital media device land to let us know whether or not this is a good idea or a bad idea, or just a carbon neutral idea that doesn't generally do anything. But before we get started, I'll be giving our usual pitches. If you want to give us a little bit of money, that would be really great. You can head on over to patreon.com/whydoesthisexist. That's patreon.com/whydoesthisexist. You can donate to get a little bit of extra bonus, like and you can listen to some watch-alongs, listen-alongs, watch some watch-alongs, some excess banter if we've got any. And as well as just giving us a little bit of money so that we will announce your name on the air. We'll also we'll have a little thing just thanking you, giving you a shout out. And if you give us a little bit extra, you can go to one of the tiers, and I think it's about $5, and you can pick the show that we're gonna do, and we can eventually get to an episode specifically chosen by you, and a topic specifically chosen by you about something weird in pop culture that either has happened, is in the process of happening, or exists but no one has seen or heard it. Like something that's locked up in a vault somewhere, like maybe I guess as an example, something in Prince's vault. Yes, something in Prince's vault. Prince recorded a bajillion things that will not see the light of day. So if you have any idea about something like that, that would be very cool to hear about.
I thought the plan was that like his estate was gonna like release all that stuff like over time.
I think they might now. I know one is coming out now.
Yeah.
But I don't think
he literally had like I think it was like 20,000 songs or something written and recorded. It was some obscenely high number of songs.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous.
That guy was fucking. He's like an alien, probably.
Oh yeah.
I got like fucking. There's no way that someone could write that many songs.
I mean,
and
Frank
and
Zappa too. Frank
they're
Zappa,
probably
which
all good.
yeah, they probably are. And Frank Zappa, who we will be talking about in a future episode, also has albums that
Ugh.
continuously are released.
Yeah,
That guy never stopped writing either. Just
yeah.
unbelievable talent from those two men. Anyway, you can find our show on the following platforms. You can find us on Podbean, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, TuneIn, Alexa, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes. And if you like what we're doing, don't just it. You can send us some stuff over to why does this exist show at gmail.com, or just like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And we would appreciate that as well. If you think we're terrible, then do the same.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for listening to our spiel. That's the news. Here's the weather. Let's get on with the goddamn show. So, would you like to lead this, Mr. Rob?
Yeah. All right. So I don't think you could talk about loot boxes and microtransactions without kind of going back into the history of like monetization in gaming. So if you go back to like the 90s and 2000, early 2000s, when companies wanted to kind of expand on the storyline of a game, add new features, they would make an expansion pack. Back in those days, when you got an expansion pack, it was essentially like a new game. It was almost like you're getting a completely new game, and they added some extra stuff. So, you look at a game like StarCraft Brood War, for example. So the first StarCraft came out, it had 3 different campaigns for each of the races. And then they added StarCraft Brood War, which was 3 all new full campaigns, which each of the races, plus each race had all new units. So that was what you got. You had Half-Life, like Half-Life Blue Shift. It was a completely new campaign storyline. It was shorter than Half-Life, like Half-Life 1, but it was still like almost, it was just as good. And you were getting it for a reduced price. You weren't paying the full $60 or $50 for it. You would pay like $20 or $30, and you would get basically a full game out of that. You did need to have the base game, but who cares? You're getting basically a whole full new game for half the price.
Yeah, it's not a terrible idea.
No.
It's a little annoying, but it's like it's not the worst thing in the world, because I mean, you're still getting
it's not,
a full
but
game.
It wasn't really even that annoying though, because it was like, again, you're getting a whole new experience. It's not like you're paying full price for like the same game twice,
right?
And that's what began to happen, is that expansion packs started to get not as good, and then like that's when like it started to be not an expansion pack anymore, but DLC, and this was like the mid to late 2000s, early 2010s. Instead of releasing a full game with all of its content, game companies released partial game and then have the rest to finished product as DLC. Now, this wasn't always the case. Sometimes companies did have really good DLC that was like basically an expansion pack. Added a whole new campaign, new weapons, new characters, that whole deal. But a lot of the time, it was completely unnecessary, useless crap that was just like you were paying money for nothing. A good example of this is Bethesda, the Horse Armor DLC for Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. It was like literally just a cosmetic thing. Didn't do anything, and you paid, I think it was like $10 for it for the DLC.
Just for skins?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, I mean, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I don't see why they can't. I don't see why, like, I mean, I see why they stopped putting it in the game, but it's just stupid. Like, just keep it in the game.
Right.
Like, if you wanted to just squeeze more money out of people, just charge more for the game.
Well, so then what we have is, we move on to the next.
Not saying that either of those ideas are good, but like.
Well, you move on to the late 2010s or mid to late 2010s, and you have now microtransactions became like the primary thing. Now, microtransactions in general were a lot of the times the game would be free to play, like PlanetSide 2 is free to play. I think Counter-Strike Global Offensive is free to play now. It wasn't when it first came out, but I believe it now it is.
I haven't played Counter-Strike in years. I loved that.
Yeah. Well, I loved the original Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Source, and then I didn't really like Global Offensive. It wasn't that good.
I only played the original ones in high school.
Yeah. So now what they did, and so their whole excuse is like, oh, well, we're giving you this game for free, so you have to pay something, and that's when they came out with microtransactions.
No,
now,
I don't. I don't have to pay anything.
Well, that's the thing, is they want you to pay something.
No, of course they want me to, but I'm not going to give them that satisfaction.
Well, to be fair, they do. It costs money, especially for online games. It costs money to run servers. It costs money to have to really, pay staff that makes updates. So, okay, so there has to be some kind of monetary thing there, so that way they can keep the servers up and all that. But the problem with microtransactions is that it became like, so generally what you're buying is a better item. This isn't always the case, but a lot of times it is the case. So what you have, the problem is that a lot of games now, they become what's called pay to win. If you pay real money, you get this good item, which makes you more powerful than the average player who maybe doesn't have the money to buy all these items, or doesn't want to spend the money. Well, guess what? Now you could friggin' destroy them because they have the shitty default weapons and you have the good microtransaction weapons.
Yeah, that's stuff I can't stand. That's honestly That's honestly what made me quit playing Magic Arena. Well, I mean, I think I played Magic Arena a few times. Like, I've been on and off it. I liked it in beta a lot, and then and then the stupid thing was when beta became out, when they fully launched the beta to alpha, they took away every item that you had, so you just had to start from scratch, and then but you were still, during the time when it was in beta, you still were able to pay money and spend money and get just acquire more cards, and then you lost all of those cards, which was, and they just did a sorry not sorry thing, and now you were stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But when it really got into alpha, it just became obnoxious because they have so. There's a lot of problems with Arena, and but one of them is it has two currencies. So you can buy, you can use real money to either buy your gold, or you can buy gems, and you only get enough gems where you have one, where you can only buy 1.5 of something basically. So
right.
The other half of the gems are just totally useless at that point. So then you have to buy the other more gems. So it keeps you in a funnel, but also the other thing is, how are you going to get the packs? You can get the packs by either grinding away, and it just is extremely frustrating because it's pitting you against people who have obviously paid to win. So, and
right.
it's the same thing with just playing regular Magic, where somebody net decks the most OP deck, and then you just play that over and over again, and it's just a totally unfun experience. And then you're forced to, and you're forced to net deck yourself. So then it's just going to be a mirror match the whole time, and that's not fun. So
and
it's just an unfun experience, especially if you're like me, where you like to build your own decks with weird stuff, and just have fun. Where over there, it's just it just became incredibly competitive for no reason, and you're just playing the same. It's just the same 3 decks just playing against each other, and
that's the meta.
Yeah, you have to just play the meta, and it's just obnoxious because you just have to pay to win. You just have to pay to get all the gems, and you have to do all the stuff. I mean, that's
it's their business model.
Well, yeah, but it's just a stupid idea. But
it's terrible.
And it just doesn't make any sense to me, because it just it just makes a totally unfun experience, because what's my other option? To just grind and play the same, and just get my ass kicked over and over and over again? Why would I do that? And then by the time I'm able to get enough coins to get to like build the deck that is the new meta, they're going to come out with another set, or they're going to pump more cards into it, and then a new meta is going to come, and then I'm back to square one. So it's like an unwinnable situation to grind.
Yeah.
Where like it's like, I mean, that's just a small. That's like an appetizer as to like how bad a microtransaction can be.
Well,
but
yeah,
like,
and that's
like it gets way worse with just regular games.
well, and the thing is that like they'll have a lot of the times now what they do, like you can unlock everything that you could buy with microtransactions, right? Like, oh, you could unlock it. This is what their whole argument with Battlefront 2 was when they did the loot box thing. Is like, oh, anything that you can get in a loot box, you can unlock by grinding. The problem is it takes literally 20,000 hours of gameplay to unlock all the stuff. So, inevitably, like realistically, you have to buy, So maybe it's not pay to win because, yeah, you could technically grind out and get the items, but it's definitely pay to skip, which is, in my opinion, a form of pay to win. Because you're just skipping the grind then. You could be like a level 1 guy and have the best items, versus someone who's played for like 40 hours already and doesn't nearly have as good equipment.
Yeah, that's
and then, you have games like PlanetSide 2, which they literally have a whole class of weapons that is pay only. You can only get by paying, basically. And it's like, and obviously they're better, because they want to encourage people to buy those weapons, but it's like unfairly better. Like you could like look at the difference if you like take a regular machine gun and shoot it, and like you could see the spread of bullets, and then you take one of the friggin' paid machine guns and shoot it, and it's like every bullet hits the same mark. It's like so accurate,
Jesus.
Yeah, it's stupid crap like that. Now there are some companies that when they do microtransactions, they do it in a good way in the sense that they only use it for aesthetic reasons. So like only like different costumes or different like skins for your gun. Valve did this with Team Fortress 2, basically. I mean, there are some weapons that are better, but again, everything you can buy in Team Fortress 2, you can unlock by playing the game.
Okay.
Or trading with other players.
That's not bad.
Yeah. So and a lot of it is just like cosmetic stuff, like I said. So it's it's not like it doesn't affect gameplay. It just makes you look like hats. They don't generally affect gameplay. Like they might have a little effect here or there, but it's not gonna. Someone that's like just playing with like vanilla equipment and vanilla items and stuff is not gonna have so much disadvantage against someone who has like all these stuff that they got from loot crates or microtransactions.
Yeah, I mean, that's
so games that do that, it's not so bad because they're doing it only for cosmetics. So there's still a reason to play the game and not like have to worry about getting your ass kicked by someone who paid $5 to friggin' get some gun that's broken.
Right. And I mean, you have the option to like it gives you the option to spend or to like whether or not you want to spend, which I think is a healthier way to go about it.
Right.
It's like it's like, okay, I don't really need this, but if I'd like to play, with the Spider-Man skin, let's just say, then I'll buy the Spider-Man skin. Well, I mean, is it like, would you specifically get that skin, or like would it be the randomized loot box?
It depends on what what it is.
I guess it depends on the game.
Yeah, because some games that you get like a randomized thing. Some games you can buy what you want. Like, obviously that's a better option because you get to buy what you want. Yeah. And like you get exactly only what you want.
Right, and I think it would keep the customer base loyal too, because they're like, oh, okay, well, they're not gonna like try to screw me over with this.
Yeah, a big part of this too is kind of the shift in MMO games. So in the 90s and 2000s, MMOs in general, there was a couple exceptions here and there, but for the most part, you had to pay a monthly subscription to play. And again, that goes back to the companies having to be able to pay to keep the servers up and do maintenance on the servers and update and have staff. They have, people that or GMs in the game that monitor stuff and fix things. And if there's any, players abusing anything, they could be, reported to a GM. So they have to like obviously charge some kind of premium. Otherwise they wouldn't be able to operate because, people need to get paid. Servers need to be, cost money to be kept up. So, but when they started going towards this shift into free-to-play MMOs and free-to-play video games, all of a sudden, again, they needed something to generate revenue. And how do they do that? They did it through microtransactions instead. And it's really bad in MMOs because, again, you either pay to skip, which, you could play and grind and unlock everything like a normal person, or just pay this money and then get to the end game content immediately. Or it's pay to win, which in the worst MMOs is pay to win, which gets really annoying because it's like then it's not fun.
Yeah.
Well,
it's only fun for the one person, and then
yes.
But then even so, for how long is it fun? Because even just even being the guy where it's like, okay, I can just troll through everything, I just annihilate everybody. How long is it going to be fun before nobody wants to play it with you?
Yeah.
Or it's just you and other people who are equally who have the equal weaponry because both of you paid the premium, and then it's really just whoever lands first.
Yeah.
Which
and
it just kills the game.
That's why I kind of see the complaints. Like Blizzard has kept WoW a subscription-based video game since it came out in 2004. And, it's still going 17 years later, and it's still a subscription-based service. And I could see the argument for making it free-to-play because, again, there's so many other MMOs that are free-to-play now. But at the same time,
I think it's one of the larger ones where it's so successful at this point where
absolutely the largest one, not even one of the larger ones. There's no comparison to WoW, pretty much.
They'd probably be if they did do that because it has such a large fan base and a large player base, they could probably even coast on the 80-20 rule.
At this point, Blizzard has made their money with WoW and then some, so they really don't need to. If they wanted to do free-to-play with WoW, they could easily do it.
Oh, I'm sure.
The only issue is that then they would probably introduce some kind of microtransaction system, which they do have. Again, they have something like that, but it's all cosmetic stuff. It really doesn't have that much bearing on the gameplay. And you could, especially now, retail WoW is so easy to level up. You can max out a character in a couple of days. Whereas in vanilla WoW when it came out, that would take a month, to max out a character.
Yeah, I've never played WoW because I've known too many people that have played and they've gotten sucked into it, and then there goes everything.
It is highly addictive.
I probably said this I probably said this one on the podcast already, but I used to be in a band with these guys, and one of the guitar players was a huge WoW player, and it had taken over to a point where there were some practices where he was just I can't come, I'm playing WoW.
Yeah.
The practices were in the other guitar player's house, so we weren't spending any money, so we didn't care. We still went through it. We still went through the set and just hung out, which is 3/4 of your band practice is just hanging out anyway.
Henry Cavill, who plays Superman and the Justice League and stuff, and also Geralt of Rivia on The Witcher, he almost missed his audition for Superman because he was raiding with his WoW guild.
That's right.
So,
that goes to show you just how addicting this game can be. And the South Park episode, I think, embodied it perfectly.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh. But I think the microtransaction loot box thing has really come to a boil, or it came to a boil when Star Wars Battlefront 2 came out. Because EA promised all this stuff. They promised that loot boxes were not going to be a big thing in terms of affecting gameplay. They promised that you'd be able to grind and get everything in a timely manner, and it was a complete lie. The loot boxes were a huge part of the gameplay. They were pretty much required to get anything cool. And also again, I think I mentioned before, it took like 20,000 hours of gameplay if you wanted to actually unlock everything. And it got
Jeez.
to the point where class action lawsuits were actually filed against Electronic Arts. And several countries in the European Union actually threatened to ban Battlefront 2 and fine Electronic Arts because they considered it gambling, which it essentially
I
was.
mean,
You were paying real
yeah.
money for a chance to get a random item. So it essentially was gambling.
Yeah, that's gambling in, like, the most basic sense of the word.
Yeah. After the backlash from that, EA was kind of forced to like fix it a little bit, and they made it way easier to unlock items. The grind was not nearly as bad, so you could actually realistically unlock what you wanted to unlock in a timely manner.
Yeah.
But like it's still going on. That's the problem, is that it didn't end there. Now, again, there's more emphasis now on like stopping that, like, because now that governments have gotten involved and are calling it gambling, but it's still there. There's still games coming out with this crap. These microtransactions and loot boxes. It's notorious on uh, mobile games. Like mobile games are like insane for the amount of microtransactions there are, and sometimes just to play the game. Like you'll download an app, like some puzzle game on on the App Store, and you basically, it's like they'll allow you a certain amount of time to play, and then they're like, oh, you need to buy more coins to play this level, or you can wait another 2 days for your coins to regenerate.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that it targets the people that are playing mobile games are like older people and little kids. And the older people a lot of the times are just like, oh, like end up being like addicted to gambling, so they just keep buying, and putting themselves in debt. And little
Right.
kids don't know any better and are playing on their mom's phone and just buy, you know? And
Yeah,
they're
and
spending
then
all this money.
before, right, and then before they know it, mom and dad like end up getting a credit card bill for like 5 grand, and they're like, "What?
Yeah,
Who the hell?" And then like they're at each other's throats. They're like, "What did you spend this money on? I didn't spend the
right.
money." Well, I didn't spend the money, and then the last thing that they suspect is the kid because the kid's 8 years old.
Yeah. And it's becoming that's a real problem, because it's like it's targeting people that don't know any better,
Mm-hmm.
or have gambling addiction, which is even worse. It's like a friggin' basically like a heroin dealer, opening up shop like next to a drug addiction clinic. Um,
I mean, it's a great business model.
well, yeah, great business model, but
But
these companies are
terrible.
making like hand over foot, and the really effed up thing is that a lot of times these are companies that are based in China. They're purposely doing this because they want to like take money out of like the West, so to speak, and
Mm-hmm.
they use predatory business tactics. They try to wipe their competition off the map. It's a really like sleazy kind of like, it's almost like how, like kind of like a sleazy gambling operation almost, like
Because China, for as long as it's been a nation, because the wealth gap was always just so intense that
Mhm.
it's not only extreme, like it's the extreme capitalism combined with extreme poverty, and that's where you get a kleptocracy where
Yeah.
everybody's just cloning everything, and on top of
Yeah.
that, they're utilizing these like really shady business practices because that's the only way that a lot of people can even get close to getting ahead.
Yeah. And the messed up
So it's
thing is
really just
too,
ingrained in the culture
well, and the messed
nowadays.
up thing is too now is that because these games are so popular in China specifically, you have now Western companies catering to that. Like Blizzard is a perfect example. Blizzard, were when they did BlizzCon. This was a couple years ago now. Everyone's excited. They were promising that there was going to be a new Diablo game. Well,
Oh,
it
I know
turns out it
this.
wasn't an actual Diablo game. It was a mobile game, a Diablo game. And the only reason they did it is because there's a huge market for mobile games in China, and the Blizzard wants that money. So it's like they're using these like really sleazy business practices to like make really shitty video games just to make a quick buck,
Yeah,
and
my
it's happening
brother-in-law was
across the
at that
board.
game. My brother-in-law was at the that BlizzCon,
Oh yeah,
and
people were
he told me
pissed.
firsthand one of the it was like one of the funniest and like saddest things that he had ever seen.
Yeah,
But he was like, I mean, but like, he was just like, it was just really funny to be there.
Yeah. Well, Blizzard's like been in a lot of hot water lately because they've been really kowtowing to China. They basically took back the winnings of this professional Overwatch, or he's a professional Hearthstone player. They took his winnings and banned him for life because he voiced his support for the protests in Hong Kong.
Oh, come on!
Because Blizzard is literally afraid of offending the Chinese Communist Party.
Jesus, can he sue for that? He probably should be able to sue.
Technically, he can't because he signed a contract.
Oh, come on!
Right. He's contracted by Blizzard, so they could say, "Oh, well, you're in violation of your contract because you made a political statement that is against our wishes."
That's such nonsense.
Yeah. Well, it was a big backlash against that. A lot of people actually canceled their WoW subscriptions over it. Well, it really didn't do much because
it didn't. There's too many people that would replace.
Well, that's the thing.
Immediately.
Exactly. There's just way too many people. But I mean, it really, this could all kind of be lumped in, these sleazy practices in the gaming industry that have come about over the last 15 or 20 years. It's just been getting worse. And I'm really seeing that there's probably going to be a video game crash again soon. And I'm just kind of actually hoping it goes that way because, when we had the video game, I think we've probably said this before on the podcast, when we had the video game crash in the early 80s, what came out of it was Nintendo and like the golden age of video gaming. So, we could really use another golden age of video games. And unfortunately, the only way to do that is for the industry to collapse.
Mm. So you mean so you mean just like all the AAA games and just
right.
And like just all these giant gaming corporations like just like Blizzard and EA specifically and would I guess Nintendo would also fall into that bracket, but Nintendo tends to make some pretty good games.
Yeah,
Nintendo tends to do the right thing a lot.
Yes,
I would say. I mean, DLC for Nintendo games, it's usually more like it's more like an expansion pack.
Yeah.
Than a regular than like a loot box or anything or just standard DLC. But also, you I mean, you have the choice as to whether or not you can do it. It's not really going to affect the main story that much.
Yeah.
Like, I just bought the DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield just because it had been there a while, and I was like, why the hell not?
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it's just extra. It's, they did make enough content where it basically is just expansion packs, or, the Mortal Kombat ones. It's extra characters. You can either buy all of them, or you can buy them separately. The same deal with Smash Brothers. They
did the same exact thing.
Yeah, I didn't buy every Smash Brothers character, but I bought a few of them. I bought Banjo-Kazooie for sure, and I bought Sephiroth, and I think I bought one other. But I didn't buy each. I didn't buy every single one of them. I only bought the ones that were important to me.
Yeah.
So
and they do offer
it. Stuff.
It is discounted if you buy the whole pack, if you buy the Ultimate Fighter Pass, I don't even know how much it is now. I think it was it's $5 or $9. I don't remember, but you get all the fighters, and it ends up being cheaper than if you bought them all individually. So
right, so it's not even though I wish that DLC just wasn't a thing and just everything on the game was just on the game, everything intended should just be a regular unlockable. Thanks for buying this game. We don't we'll see you in a few years when we make a new one.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just not realistically on how the business is going to go. But I don't mind doing that because I have the choice as to whether or not I can buy it. And then down the road, there's usually if you wait it out, there's usually a complete edition that comes out where.
Well, yeah, I was going to say
has everything, and you just pay the original price of the game.
Yeah, or they have what's called a season pass sometimes, and it just ends up being if you buy the season pass, you get all the DLC for free, and it's $30 or something.
Yeah,
or $40, and you get all the DLC that comes out for the game.
Yeah, it's somewhat reasonable.
Yeah, What was I going to say? I think a big problem too that we have to kind of touch on that's sort of related to this is first day DLC and like exclusive DLC based on where you buy the game, because
Yeah, that's messed up.
and like pre-order like things like exclusive pre-order content and stuff. Always hated that, and it was the problem is that when the company started doing it, is really drove bad bad business practices, because all of a sudden you have like slews of people freaking buying the game before it's even out yet, before they even have a chance to play it. So it became like these companies got lazy, and it's like, oh well, we can release a shitty unfinished product because a million people already bought it, and it's not even out yet. And that's why I never I don't remember even the last time I ever pre-ordered a game, because I hate that business practice. I hate pre-ordering a game and prepaying for it and then getting a shitty game on release. I'd rather just wait for it to come out. And now I pretty much do this almost all the time. If there's a game that I really want, I wait for it to come out, because inevitably it's going to come out and it's going to be broken on the first day and they have to patch it. So there's your first thing. And this is especially true with AAA games, not as much with indie games, because indie games, I think they put a little bit more time into. They don't have the deadlines they have to worry about. When you have a AAA game, the publisher is the one that sets the deadline, and even if the game is not done, if the developer is still developing a game, the publisher's like, nope, it's got to be out now, so you better get your asses in gear. And that's what you get. Like, you get a game like Cyberpunk, that 2077, that they kept pushing it back, and they kept saying it's not done yet, but they kept getting pressure from both the publisher and the fans that were like, no, we want it, just release it, it's ridiculous already. And guess what, they released it and it was a buggy piece of crap, because that's what happens now with AAA games.
Yeah, so you were talking about like a second crash before for
Yes.
the gaming industry. No crashes are good. Like, it would suck that all these people are going to lose their jobs, but you think it's just necessary for like just the health of the industry, because
Yes.
then it might just shift it where it might force these gaming companies to either go under, get split off to people with like more reasonable business practices,
Yes.
or to just kind of shift their business models. I mean, usually when something like this if a crash were to happen, then you'd see like a big executive churn.
Mm-hmm.
So there'd be like a good chance that somebody who knows what the hell they're doing and understands the integrity of what the company is originally about would just step in and just start doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's always a gamble too. You never know what they're going to do until they do it. But but you think that it's something that needs to happen as far as the big game companies are concerned.
Yes, or they need to be broken up with like antitrust lawsuits, because especially like you have companies like EA that like literally gobble up all these smaller companies. Basically, this was EA's business model. They were the worst. This is why EA is also considered one of the worst companies in America, because they've been doing this for 30 years. Basically, what they would do, they would go in, buy a smaller studio, fire their entire staff, take their IPs, bring it in-house, use their own people, and make the games like the way they wanted to and sell them. And 9 times out of 10, they would fucking make it terrible.
Yeah, just crank out a bad game. This is like
right.
A good example of that is I think it was WWE I think it was either like 2K20 or 2K19 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of those, because I forget the studio. I forget if it was Ukes or if it was another studio. But there was a studio that had always made. It was Ukes, and there were a couple of other studios, and they all for the longest time they made all of the SmackDown games and all of the WWE 2019 games, or they made every WWE game.
Yeah,
and they were all for the most part consistently very good.
Mm-hmm.
You might have gotten a few clunkers here and there, but that was usually when it was a game that was different from what they normally made, like a WWE Crush Hour or like a WrestleMania or like a WrestleMania X or like a WrestleMania 2018 or a WrestleMania 19, where none of the wrestling took place in a ring, and it was just like
Mm-hmm.
running around backstage trying to sabotage WrestleMania, and like you're like throwing construction workers off of a building. Like it's a really stupid game. Like the only way to actually have a real match in the ring is like to just do an exhibition match where it's like, why am I even playing this? But
Yeah.
um, this particular studio, they made the games every year for the longest time. They either filed for bankruptcy or or 2K bought them out, and
Mm-hmm.
like the first couple of 2K, and they just like got rid of everybody. They made them like they started doing it their way, and like the first game was okay. The second game, like the first few games were all right, but I think the turnover just got like so bad, and like the micromanagement and all the other stuff that
Yeah.
like they ended up and they started rushing them out because every year it's like, gotta make a new 2K game, gotta make a new 2K game, gotta make a new
Yeah.
2K game, and just like cracking the whip with probably a smaller team because they probably fired everybody, and
Mm-hmm.
like, and then there's like one game. I'm pretty sure it was 2019. I'm pretty sure it was 2K19. But it's unplayable. Like the
Yeah.
glitches are unbelievably crazy. Like there were, I can't remember the video, but like it was like their hair was like just going in front of their faces. They were like standing
Yeah.
still and freezing. They were floating away.
Oh
Like
God.
the commentary was like way off. Like every
Well, I mean,
like I mean the
that's just
commentary
accurate to
usually
Michael Cole's commentary.
yeah, not too far off from reality in some places.
Yeah.
But it was just like it was just such a abomination of a game. It was like, how could you possibly put this out? Like
Yeah.
who approved this?
Yeah.
And it was just this unplayable thing, but like but they got your money, and then I'm
Yeah.
sure there were a lot of refunds offered somehow, but it was just like, it's just mind-boggling how you can just like take a game and just like rush it out like to the point where like and you don't care that it's unplayable.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is because video games became such a huge cultural phenomenon and like became such a huge moneymaker. Like they're pouring more money into video or as much or more than into video games development now as they do, Hollywood blockbuster movies.
Oh yeah, well also the
And
return is like way better because like
yes.
because like because like a Hollywood flop is a Hollywood flop is a big flop if like a
Mhm.
blockbuster is bad, but like it's like like a flop in the gaming industry is probably most likely to still be a profit.
Yes. Um,
Where like a
and
flop is not, or where like a Hollywood flop, you're not profiting at all.
no, and I think I don't want to sound like a hipster, a video game hipster, but the '90s were better in terms of quality of video games. Now, I'm not saying that every video game that came out between 1990 and 2001 was amazing, because there were a lot of shitty games in that time.
Superman 64.
Yeah, but I think development studios put more emphasis on creating the video game as an art thing rather than as a big money blockbuster thing. So they took more time. The teams were bigger. They were more dedicated. It was more of a labor of love. So when you got a good game in the '90s, it was a really good game. As opposed, not saying that there's bad games now, but like you could tell that most AAA games follow a certain formula in order to make the most profit. Like there's just that's just the way it is.
Right, and I mean the game is not very much changed from like year to year. It's
No,
usually just like an updated roster, but like everything
right,
else is the same, or like they update the graphics a little bit. But
right,
like it's from like one year to the next. It's unless it's like a new console, it's hardly noticeable. Like you'd have to
yeah,
play like one game from 3 years ago and one game and like the game this year to really notice a vast difference.
yeah. Well, it's like you look at a series like Call of Duty, where the
It's
Call
the
of Duty
same
one
game.
and
They just changed the maps.
Exactly. And the problem was is that when Call of Duty first came out, Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 2 were amazing games. They were like such high quality, amazing games.
Yeah,
Like
and they
they
relied
were
way
fun to
more on the
play.
storylines too.
Exactly.
I liked the third one a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the storylines were amazing.
And Medal
You
of
know,
Honor was a good one too.
yes. And then the point where it changed is where they decided, Activision announced that they were going to release a Call of Duty every year. And it's like, well, why?
Yeah,
Because
there's
then
no
from that
reason for
point
that.
on, it literally became just it's a clone of the previous year's game with slightly better graphics and like a few new guns,
Yeah.
but essentially the same game.
Until they added the zombie mode, which was still just like a gimmick.
But again, the zombie mode became the same game over and over. They just added more maps and more guns. That's all they
Right.
did. And it's like, so you're paying full price $60 for what would be an expansion pack 10 years before. You're paying full price. It's a full new game, and you have to buy it every year. It gets to the point where it's like, well, why would I do that? I don't want to do that. I don't want to. And that's pretty much like where I stopped playing a lot of AAA games. Like I play. Every once in a while I'll play one, but now I mostly stick to either older games or like smaller companies.
Right, like enough's enough.
Yeah, because it got ridiculous. It's like I don't want to play the same game that I played last year with just two new guns and like slightly better graphics. Like,
Yeah.
why would I do that? That's not fun.
No, I mean I don't care enough for that.
Right.
And honestly, I only buy so many video games per year. Not that I ever
Mhm.
like just went well. I went crazy when I was buying like old games,
Yeah.
but like that's kind of different. Like
Yeah.
the older games, as far as like newer games are concerned, maybe I buy two per year, and they've usually been out for a while by the time that I'm buying them. So they're not even like
Yeah.
they're not even that new by the time I've bought them. Like I'll usually wait like a good 6 months after the games come out, just like
Oh yeah.
just
You have
because,
to.
yeah, just because either the price will go down, it's patched
Yeah.
up, both, or
Both. It's really like
it's usually just both.
yeah.
And I mean, I don't have a reason to like how much like I'm not gonna spend too much time playing video games, and on top of that, like there's nothing wrong with the games that I have, so I don't need to just buy a new game. It
It
just doesn't
really
make any sense to me. I mean, also, like, I, I like being able to pick and choose what feels like a good idea to buy. Like, what game feels like a good
yeah.
idea to buy. I'm not gonna aimlessly just buy it because it's new. I'm not gonna do that. If I
Yeah.
see like, if I see a new Mario game, I'm not just gonna say, "Oh, it's a Mario game. I have to buy it." Like,
Right.
you know, I'll just wait a while because it's not gonna go anywhere, and like maybe
Yeah.
I'll just buy it like 5 years down the road. Like I
That's
don't have to play it right this very minute.
that's pretty much what I've been doing. Like, if I see a game I like, I'll put it on like my Steam wish list, and then I'll just wait until it's on sale. I don't even remember the last time I bought a game for full price because it's too like I don't. And I've really strayed away from playing multiplayer games. Like, I don't really play multiplayer games anymore. I'd rather just play single player games because when I play a game, I want to have fun, and a lot of times, like multiplayer games are just like they get so stressful because you're facing people that are playing, 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day. I get to play maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours a day if I'm lucky. At night.
Yeah,
And that's like my only time to play is like, after William goes to bed, pretty much, and so it's like I don't want to like have to like spend my time playing against people that are gonna like destroy me because they play 5 hours a day.
right. Because like, what's
So
the point?
I've
You play video games to unwind, not to get pissed off
exactly
again.
right.
Especially if you just
So
had a bad day, you're not gonna like.
yes,
You're not gonna get like. It's just gonna feel like a torture. Like it's because then it becomes like a voluntary torture chamber. Because you're like, all right, well,
yes,
I woke up, great, everything sucks. I'm pissed off now. I'm gonna go home and play video games, and everything's gonna be better. You play the video game, god damn it, I'm pissed off again. This never ends, and then you do it again the next day, and it's the definition of insanity. So like, why would I play a multiplayer game anymore? I'm the same way. I play linear games. Like, I'd rather just play the story mode, beat it, and then be done with it, or just like an open world game where it's like where, you know, like a Tony Hawk, which I'm glad that they finally announced a Switch date. I don't know. I'm debating on maybe that might be the one game that I buy new this year.
Tony Hawk.
Yeah, because they're like porting the 1 and 2 thing to the Switch finally in another month. So I probably by the time this comes out, it might be a couple of weeks, or they might have done it already. But they But I mean, I feel like they probably have taken enough of their time to do it the right way. I don't know. So like maybe I'll wait, maybe I won't. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, because most of the Switch games or games that get ported to Switch are fairly good. I actually just picked up the other day on May the 4th. I picked up Star Wars Jedi Academy. Was on sale because it was May the 4th on Switch. Yeah. So I got it for like, I don't know, like $5 or something.
Oh, I wish I knew.
And you know, it's a classic Star Wars game. So I've been playing that. I wasn't
crazy about the Crash Bandicoot port though. Like honestly, I hated that port because
really.
Well, it's because whoever the team of the developers that were porting it, or the porters, I guess if you will, they messed up on the landing stuff. Like
really?
Like they did something with the shape of his feet, where like in the original on the original thing, his feet were like squares, like the pixels that were his feet, or like the polygons that were his feet. They were squares.
The hitboxes were changed.
That's what it meant. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
The hitboxes were changed. So like originally they were squares. So like you didn't totally have to be on something to like make it. So it was like I mean, still a challenging game, but it wasn't like, you know, you could get away with something every once in a while. But for some stupid reason, for this they decided to make them like these thin ovals.
Yes.
And now, so like, you have to be like spot on every single time, otherwise you just slip off.
Yeah, and that's not just the Switch port.
Yeah, no, it's not the Switch port. It's all of them.
All of them. Yeah, I think it was because they didn't just port the game; they basically remade the games from the ground up. Because they did the same thing with Spyro Reignited. It's technically a remake rather than just a port or a reskin or retexture. They pretty much remade the games from the ground up, so they had to change the hitboxes because the graphics were better. So it would have been weird, I guess, if the hitboxes were the same.
Oh, okay, that makes
but
sense.
Yeah, that is quite annoying.
I don't see why they couldn't just still make them squares if they just smaller squares.
I guess because it wouldn't have fit right within the model or something. I don't know.
I guess. I mean, I would like to think that they tried and it just didn't work.
Yeah,
and that's why
I think so.
It. But
yeah, I think they
know.
Just had no choice. But I know what you mean in that, because that is annoying. I have it for PS4, and it's so hard. It's it's frustrating.
I can't beat the first stage because I just get so frustrated. So I just abandoned it.
Yeah. I will say Spyro Reignited, they did a better job in that regard. There's not as much, the hitbox thing isn't as bad. There are a couple of weird jumps where, it feels like in the original game, it was way easier to do. But for the most part, it's not too bad.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think Spyro kind of wasn't, really as challenging as Crash was, so I think that kind of helps. You know, Spyro was more kind of a laid-back platformer, and Crash is a little bit more intense and skill-based.
Yeah, Spyro had it wasn't really an open world, but it had an open world feel. I mean, the only games that the only one that I played was Ripto's Rage.
Yeah,
but I'd like to think that the other ones were similar, where it's not really open world, but it feels like it is.
Well, yeah, you could do the levels in any order you want, and
Yeah.
you have to go around the whole level and collect items and stuff. I would say
It's like a
that
sandbox.
Banjo Kazooie was a little bit more open in that regard.
Yeah.
But Spyro was still pretty open. The levels themselves kind of have a more linear path you have to follow, but you do have to like kind of look around for like secrets and stuff like that. So it's not like 100% like walking in a straight line. Like there's like some you have to do some exploring.
Okay. So going back to this crash that that you're suggesting could
Mm-hmm.
or like just might happen just inevitably.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there would be more of like do you think there would just be a bigger renaissance for the indie games,
Yes.
which we're seeing now anyway?
Yes.
Like we're seeing a lot of indie games that are just like popping up. I mean, we mentioned ukulele in the Banjo Kazooie podcast, and
Mm-hmm.
you know we just we like we kind of touched on this before in a few other places, but we're seeing a lot of indie games getting way more praise and way more
Yes.
of like just love from just gamers everywhere, just because it's these little baby studios that are taking their time, and like they're
Yes.
taking many years to make some of these games at points
Yeah.
like Cuphead is like the granddaddy of all these like major success stories, where like it took these guys who just wanted to make an amazing video game, and they loved this particular style of animation, and they also love this particular style of games like the Contra games, and they love um they love they loved like the 20s Betty Boop style of animation. I forget the guy's
Yeah.
name. I want to say I know it's Shrek, but I keep thinking in my brain. I keep saying Max Shrek, but Max Shrek is the actor
That's the
in
guy who played Nosferatu, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not him.
No, I know
Obviously,
it's like Merry Melodies kind of style. Like,
yes,
yeah.
like the classic golden age of
Yes.
cartoons, like those like where they have like the very like very loopy frames, and they're like very they're very loose. They're like kind of like tubular.
Yes.
Um, that particular style of animation, and they taught themselves how to do that basically, like how to
Yeah.
draw in that particular style. Max Fleischman, that's the
Okay.
name.
Okay.
That I knew there was a Max. I don't know why I kept thinking of the Shrek one. Anyway, it doesn't make a difference now. But the Fleischman animation style was like really, vivid and vibrant, and like, very animated and loose, and sometimes it was a little scary and like
Yeah.
creepy, and like there was just something about that particular era that they loved, and they made and they made Cuphead, and they had like their construction jobs during the day, and they just did what they needed to do to put food on the table. But
Hmm.
at night, for like years, these guys just made the Moldenhauer guys. They just made Cuphead, and it took them, aeons to do it, and like the Kickstarter succeeded very well, and like to the point where this game was so successful that they were able to market it into its own like just its own brand and its own franchise, where like they
Hmm.
have memorabilia just out the wazoo, just of licensed Cuphead everything, to the point where they have their own Netflix show that's should be out I hope this year. I'd like to just see it. So like good for them, something
Yeah.
like it takes time, but if you surround yourself with people who believe in you, it has a good chance, like we said on the Kevin Smith View Askew Universe episode.
Hmm.
But it's crazy.
Well, I think a lot of the problem too with some of the bigger companies, uh, smaller indie companies are always generally run by people that are in the gaming industry. So it's like, a developer that wanted to make their own company kind of thing, and they used to work for maybe they did work for a AAA company at one time, but they kind of broke off and did their own thing. A lot of the times, companies like EA, Activision Blizzard, these big AAA companies, the people at the top are not even people that have ever worked on a video game.
Oh
They're
no,
like
they're usually
investment bank, like hedge fund managers, and like people that are like investment bankers.
yeah. I was gonna say
That
they're usually idiots who have nothing to do with who have no business being in this industry, but they're
Right.
just there because
they have money.
yeah, basically because they have money, or like they know a guy who just
Mm-hmm.
like wants to like give their friend a job, and like they're not really
Yeah.
gonna do anything, but they're just getting paid to be an asshole.
Yeah. And they don't have any idea how the industry works, how game development works. They're just there to make money, and that's the problem. That's where you get this like mentality that like, oh, like it's the quantity over quality mentality. Whereas like smaller indie companies, so they're pouring their heart and soul into a game because it's their passion, and you know it shows. You get a better game, you better quality game. You look at a game like Minecraft. You know, Notch, when he created Minecraft, that was like all he did, and like the guy became like a billionaire because of it, because it became like a cultural phenomenon. But like he didn't like set out necessarily to become a billionaire. He set out because he wanted to make a game that was like really open ended, that you could build what you wanted to do, and it had like cool little things you could mine, you could build, you could rearrange the whole landscape. Like that was like his goal. He just wanted to
Right.
make a really cool video game.
Right, and it never, and it's like, I mean, that's the good thing about like, that's my favorite thing about the games that I play is like they never end.
Yeah.
Like Minecraft is a game
Yeah.
that never ends. You can,
No.
like it doesn't end until you stop playing the game. Tony
Right.
Hawk, a game that doesn't end until after you stop playing the game.
Yeah.
You know, same deal with any fighting game.
Yeah.
You could keep fighting. You could fight forever, or you could just, go to bed.
Right. Whereas, like, you have games like Call of Duty where pretty much now they're almost exclusively multiplayer, and they just tack on a single player campaign because they have to,
Yeah,
and it's
but
like,
the single-player
it's like a
campaign is usually
5-hour
trash.
campaign.
Yeah, and it's usually not that good.
No, it's a 5-hour linear campaign where you don't stray off. Like you run up a straight hallway to a friggin' room full of guys. You kill them. You run up a straight hallway to the next room full of guys, and you kill them. And it's essentially every level is the same. And
Yeah, there's no like critical thinking involved because
No.
everything is going to the everything is just going to the online play where like
Right.
like we said before, you play for 2 hours. You're playing against a 13-year-old who's been playing for 12 hours because their parents don't give a shit.
Right.
And then, what do you think is going to happen? You get a little kid who keeps killing you, and they're like screaming obscenities into your headphones.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why am I doing this? But like,
Yeah.
didn't Notch like after Microsoft bought Minecraft and like they made him like a super billionaire? Like, didn't he get like really depressed after?
I actually don't know.
I had heard that I had read something that he had gotten like really depressed because like he like threw these elaborate parties for a while, and just like after a while he just started like just throwing them only because he like was alone.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised because he became like a multi-billionaire and sold his like life's work. He sold off. He was so. I could see him being depressed over that, especially because the type of person he was. He got in not wanting to like make billions of dollars, but to make a good video game. And he made a great video game and sold it and made billions of dollars. But then like it's like all of a sudden his life's work is gone.
Yeah.
Like because he's not involved anymore. He doesn't work at Mojang. He like I said, sold it to Microsoft, and I think some of the team is still there, but like for the most part, it's like mostly new people that are just continuing Minecraft because it's like a moneymaker.
What is he doing now?
I actually don't know. I haven't heard much of Notch
Yeah.
in a couple of years now, which I hope he's all right.
Yeah.
Hope he could find something that like interests him at least, or maybe start working on another game again. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, this is another one that that I can't not mention. Well, Little Nightmares is another big one. So was Hello Neighbor. The horror genre has like just exploded from this too.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
Five Nights at Freddy's was a big one. I mean, it might be okay to do an episode on that at some point, but it's like like I don't know if Fortnite was a similar thing, but like Fortnite.
Well,
also
no,
has,
Fortnite's become Fortnite is I'm pretty sure a AAA game. It was made by I think it was made by Epic Studios.
Oh, okay,
So
then.
they're Yeah, they're kind of big. They made Gears of War and Unreal Tournament and that kind of thing.
Okay, all right. Anyway, so like Five Nights at Freddy's, that was like a labor of love thing from the get
Yeah.
go, and like everybody just loved it because well, I mean, that was really around the time that the like Let's Plays and the reaction videos really started taking off. So
Yeah.
so the YouTubers and like the streamers are really what got that game, to like get to like reach the popularity that it has. But like Five Nights at Freddy's goes from just being like one game that this guy Scott Cawthon makes because he was making a bunch of Jesus games and like a bunch of like religious games and stuff like that. And he made a game about like a woodchuck that had and like none of his games had gotten good reviews. They weren't really considered good games. They didn't sell well. And like the woodchuck game, like people had like in the reviews they had panned it and they had pointed out that it's like a creep and like they looked creepy and that they looked scary. So he kind of had like a light bulb moment and he just started making a horror game, and it was just like this Five Nights at Freddy's. You're stuck alone at Chuck E. Cheese and the like animatronics come to life and they like are trying to kill you.
Hmm.
Like, and it's a just simple point and click game. You don't have to do like it's not super crazy, but he made the whole thing by himself. It takes off. He starts making more and more, and he makes this crazy lore that he's like that's all like hidden throughout the game that you have to look for. So there's like this other element that he puts into it, and then there's all the other games, and he keeps adding, and then all the YouTubers started like jumping onto the lore videos, so like that kept propelling it. Like the game theorists guy, like
Yeah.
that's where like his popularity went crazy. So like him being an opportunist, he noticed that and he just started making more FNAF videos, and then so did everybody else. So like Scott Cawthon, he inadvertently made like one of the biggest indie game hits ever, to the point where he's like he has like a book series around this that adds to the lore, and then on top of that he like there's a FNAF movie being developed by Bloomhouse, which is like which
Really? I didn't know that.
yeah, they've been like trying to do it for a few years. I think it's filming now. I think they were starting to film last year and then everything went into hell in a handbasket, and now I think it's picked back up again. But he's like still all the while he's working on other Five Nights at Freddy's games, and that's also been licensed out to like everything under the sun too. So like
Yeah.
I think the two kings here are really Five Nights at Freddy's and Cuphead of like the indie game stuff, and more of that's going to happen too. Like Little Nightmares had its own comic book for a little bit, and then like just explaining backstories, and I think the future really is in the indie games because
Hmm.
because like people can see the passion there, and with
Yes.
like indie games they don't tend to do DLC too often. It tends to just be, this is the game that you bought, this is all of the game, and thank you for supporting my dream.
Yeah, and well, even if they do DLC, it's always generally um like
It's
a new game, like
yeah,
what we would call an expansion pack,
yeah, which
back
is
in the it's like almost like a whole new game,
exactly, which
well,
that's
there's so much
not
new
bad.
content. No.
So it's like, so it's worth it. And also when an
Yeah.
indie when an you see when a AAA developer does this, it feels like a cash grab. But
Yeah.
when an indie game does this, it's a thank you.
Hmm.
Like that's really what it is. It's just like, you gave me enough money where I can make more, where I can do another one. So in the meantime, here's this, and then in 2 years or whatever, I'll be back. So
Yeah.
it's like it feels good to buy it for an indie game. I don't feel like ripped off, because like sometimes I'll buy a game, and then months later here's the DLC and it's a whole new thing, and then it's like, or like it's a few characters, or like then it's here's another DLC 6 months later, here's another DLC, and it's like, I don't like, haven't I given you enough money by now?
Hmm.
Where when an indie game does it, it's just like, hey, I'm gonna be doing like it's like it feels good because I know that this guy can pay his bills or this gal can pay her bills or whatever, and
Mhm.
they can keep doing this and they don't have to like get a shitty job at a place that they hate.
Yeah.
Like they can keep doing this, and as long as they keep doing as long as they keep making games, then I'll keep buying them and I'll keep supporting them.
Yeah.
Where like I'd much rather give my money to a neighbor that like needs it, that could use it, than like a greedy corporation that
Yeah.
just has like Scrooge McDuck in there like as a CEO and just is
Yeah.
swimming in money all day.
Yeah. Well, I feel the same way, and that's why I generally tend to buy either, smaller companies' games or, indie games, that kind of thing. I find that Japanese AAA games don't really have the same kind of like money grabbing, uh, money grabbing business model as American companies do. I think because Japan has this culture of like, if you do bad work, then you're a shitty person too. Like they have like this culture of like, it's true. Like if you're bad in business, then you're a bad person
Oh my god,
basically.
that's
Like
that's
you failed at life. If you
that's
fail in
not
business, you fail at life.
that's not always true though. There's always
I
like
know.
there's like more often than not there's like other circumstances, i.e., people who are trying to screw you over.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of like
Like
honor tied to it and stuff. So it's like you're kind of like
yeah,
you're
no, I
only as
know.
good as you're only as good as your worst performance, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So I
also
think
they have like a crazy like where I mean the work ethic is psychotic to the point where like people just
yes,
die at their desks every year.
yeah.
Like, can
Actually,
you
it's
imagine what it's
interesting.
like to be the janitor who's just like, 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 how do you fit that into a job description? Occasionally, must be willing to work on weekends and holidays in case of dead.
You have to carry the dead bodies to the meat grinder.
Yeah, like,
Um,
like, oh, what's the bullet point? We're gonna need somebody. We need a self starter who can bullet point one, clean and restock office supplies. 2, make sure that everything is kept in order. 3, pick up the dead people every so often.
yeah. It's actually in Japan. It's actually not taboo to sleep at your desk because it means that you're working hard and you need a nap.
Yeah.
So their work ethic there is crazy, and I think that's
Oh my
why
god.
Japanese AAA titles tend to be better made, better quality, and more passion poured into them than American ones. Just because that's like the Japanese business model is like be as good as you possibly can be, and if you don't, then you suck and you should commit seppuku.
I
Basically,
mean,
you
I
know.
wouldn't always say that. I mean, like it's either passion or fear.
Well,
Just sheer.
maybe it's a mixture of
It's probably
both.
both. It's probably passion for like the executives and sheer terror for the grunts.
Yeah,
I mean, also like they drink heavily in Japan, and when your boss goes out to drink, the whole team has to drink,
yeah,
and it's like disrespectful to say, "Oh, I've already had 6 beers. I can't have another one." If your boss wants to drink 12, and your boss usually does, then you have to drink 12, and then you're
yeah,
expected to like be back at your desk at like regular time the following day.
yeah,
And if your boss wants to go out for drinks again, you can't say no.
yeah,
So it's rough. It's rough out there, I tell you.
yeah.
I would love to see a
Anyway,
Dangerfield joke about that. It's tough out there, I tell you. I got a boss, Japanese guy, real nice guy. He's always getting me hammered. But then he wants me to come into work the next day. I can't even see my wife. I got no respect. No respect. 3 people died at their desk. Guess who's got to clean it up?
uh,
Oh, God.
yeah. Anyway, that's loot boxes. That's our little spiel
I got no
on.
respect. I got to pay more money for a video game I already bought 6 months ago. They're bleeding me left and right. Now my kids want to buy a new game. I could go on forever. I have a terrible Rodney Dangerfield impression. He like for me to get Rodney, it's like partially my Uncle Frank, and then I just have to be louder.
Oh,
I can't. He... Oh God! All right. So the closing statements on microtransactions, they're bad.
They're bad, and they should feel bad.
Support your local indie video game developers. Give them the money. Don't give the AAA guys money.
Yeah, and if you want to buy a AAA game, wait 6 months to a year until it's on sale, because fuck those companies. Buy it at half price.
Yeah, exactly. They got enough money to go around.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got through it pretty nicely. I've got nothing else to add.
No.
Thank you, everybody, for sticking around and enjoying our show. We love you. We're sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't get up, because we'll super kick you in the face.
Oh.
Thank you very much for checking out Why Does This Exist, a show all about the weirdest in pop culture. You can support us by heading over to Patreon at patreon.com/whydoesthisexist and give us a little extra bucks if you would like to be a wonderful, wonderful human being. Not that you're not already, but if you want to be extra wonderful, we'd love you a little bit more.
Yeah.
You can also let us know about anything weird, or, if you like the show, if you hate the show, at whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. That's a really big show. That's a lot of shows. Too many shows. We got a million shows. Not enough days, not enough time. You can also do that on YouTube by going to YouTube, the channel Why Does This Exist? Liking, commenting, subscribing, dinging that obnoxious little bell that tells you every time we have a new episode or a new clip or a new whatever. And you can view it and let us know if it's good, bad, or ugly. Sometimes it could be a combination of both. And you can also listen to us everywhere that you get your podcasts, including Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We said YouTube, but it's still there. Apple Music, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, TuneIn, Alexa, iHeartRadio, Player FM, and Listen Notes. Thank you, everybody, for checking us out.
Yeah.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And it is 11:30 at night. I gotta go to bed.
All right.
Alrighty. Do not forget, everybody, question everything.
Good night, everybody.
All right. We will see you next time when we talk about the Eddie Murphy sitcom, The PJs.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Which means whenever you want. Good night.
Good night.